Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Enterprising Minds. We've got Alex and Dave here today. Alex, I'll kick it off to you for the topic, introduction, and we'll get going.
You got like a smooth jazz voice going on, Dave. You're letting us all just ease into this
Welcome to the radio.
Love it. Comment with us if you want Dave to start that way every time, and we'll find out. That would be pretty funny. So topic today was basically is the reality of AI in marketing. So we've talked a lot about various scenarios that we've been playing around with, have tried, the tools, how they've changed. We've even talked about a little bit of kind of like the messiness internally, but I really wanted to kind of play out the whole situation. So a little bit of that is it even worth putting AI in this scenario? Is it efficient to be taking an AI tool and spending the time to automate? That was Dave's concept for the beginning of this podcast. So then we'll get into, let's play out a scenario of like posting a blog post. If your blog post process currently takes 6 weeks, but your AI tool helps you save a couple of hours, we're not really seeing the benefit. But where can it actually be used along the whole process? Where are those opportunities? And where can you finally get that efficiency that kind of the AI promises that are out there would actually realize? So let's get into it, talking about at least of, you'd mentioned about a Will Reynolds post recently, but also about kind of, is it worth spending the time to automate?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things, in our pre-recording kind of meetup. A couple of things that jumped out was, a recent comment about how the leaders of companies are really excited about AI, and they're going to shareholders and talking about all these efficiency gains and optimizations, which of course is exactly what Wall Street wants to hear. Right. But then when you go to the actual employees who are using these things, they're like, nah, I'm not really seeing any gains. Now, part of that, there on the surface, it's okay, that's interesting. When you go deeper into that, it's what are you using? How are you using it? At least from some of the stuff that I've read up to this point, is that a lot of the self-reporting sort of surveys from people who are using AI right now for work, it's still summarize my emails, get my meeting notes, or replacing a Google search with an AI thing. So you want to talk about unrealized opportunity. That is unbelievable if you're just replacing your search behavior with AI. I'm not even go down that rabbit hole. Like, you can't even talk about productivity if that's what your employees are doing. So that would ultimately mean there's a lack of education, a lack of knowledge, lack of desire to really, dig deep into these things. And I know I've experienced that with a couple of my coworkers where they have their ways of doing it, and they know it's inefficient, but it's their process. So they continue to do it that way. Part of that is that psychological need to feel like, okay, I'm in a certain spot with this project, right? When you're running through your own process, you have a gauge of, okay, I'm 40, 50, 60% done because I'm at this stage of my process. To the Will Reynolds nuance on top of all this, he had an interesting discussion on one of the socials, either LinkedIn or X or something, where he pitched the idea of diminishing returns, where your use cases get specific enough that it's no longer worth building it out, because instead of realizing the efficiency gains, you are fine-tuning and tweaking so much that you're no longer actually getting the output. Instead, you're managing the bots. I know I've experienced this. I think, with some of your examples, you've brought this up.
Right.
But that's the kind of setup for our discussion. How is that resonating with you? Have you experienced that with your coworkers? Anything that you've been reading?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple parts there. One is short-term versus long-term gains. I think a
Right.
lot of employees always look at things from a short-term, how does this affect my day-to-day job? And
Mm-hmm.
the bosses, maybe they're throwing out the buzzwords, just to get the trending kind of phrase to make Wall Street happy. But
Right.
hopefully they're also saying that with some idea of long-term benefit of, yes, we're not going to see benefits absolutely today, but over time we'll see this. But there's a huge gap in between those 2 points of view is who's actually implementing. And that's, I
Right.
think, part of the piece that you're getting to as well is there's a problem right there in the middle of knowledge of what AI could actually do for a particular business process. And then
Mm-hmm.
how do you actually implement that? And is it worth it? Because there's pieces that you do on a routine basis that, great, I have a new piece of software that makes it faster, but I only do it once a
Right.
month. It makes the report that I need to put together every month so much easier. I got that slide out in 5 minutes versus an hour. Great.
Right.
Is it worth getting a whole new tool for that? Is it worth getting the budget for that? Approving this whole process? No, probably not. It's likely pretty unrealized benefit right there. But there's also the other piece that gets unspoken, which I think the bosses always get interested about and the employees want, but is unrealized in between again, which is also opportunity. What new things
Mm-hmm.
can we do because of AI? And if AI changes things so significantly different, for instance, the cost time of writing blog posts, and if it's
Mm-hmm.
reduced so low, or internally no one wants to be the one to write it, and it gets us over that, bridges that little moat that we have a little problem with that wall, then it's worth it again, because then it is an activity that's not being done that now
Right.
can be done. And there's opportunity there to then take advantage of that and benefit of that. But there's also, throughout that entire thing, we're also talking about throwing tech on top of things.
Right.
That just doesn't make things better. It
Mm-hmm.
creates more work. It's the change management, resistance, which I have
Right.
totally seen. I did a project once. We saved, it was like 20 something plus steps, and we got it down to like 3. And we found out that people were still doing the 20 something step version. Um, and that was poor change management. It was, okay, we got this cool tech thing,
Right.
but was it communicated? Was it actually adopted? Were concerns actually voiced and heard and responded to? Were there champions to actually kind of like push people along? Because it's one thing to have some random person from some other department say, hey, you should do this. It's a whole different thing when it's when your colleague says, hey, I found a faster way to do this.
Right.
Those are totally taken differently. One of them, it's almost automatically met with resistance. The other one is met with interest. And if you're this outside group kind of pushing in, pushing, you're going to start hitting walls just because people don't want to do it. They just get scared of it, or it's more effort. And
Right.
their current process is easily done. So I guess I've seen kind of those different pieces. I'd almost advocate for like an AI group or an AI team. Maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
committee. I don't know. I hate the phrase committee because it seems like too bureaucratic.
Well.
But trying to find those opportunity pieces versus like job replacement things or job efficiency things, because honestly, those gains are probably pretty small and the effort is probably way too high. I
Right.
mean, the person will go after it if they really care. I don't think it takes an outside committee to be like, I'm going to interview your job and try to figure out where it can automate it. Like that's going to be met with resistance to begin with.
Well, and that's one of the things, yeah, where people are using it for things they don't like, right? Towards the end
Right.
of last year, we talked about, people leveraging AI for their performance reviews,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing and talk about everything you did for the last 12 months, or at least whatever you can remember you did in the last 12 months. And oh,
Right.
by the way, your pay is dependent on it. What?
And you have
Like,
12 hours to respond.
yeah,
Send this by
exactly.
today.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that ticks off a number of things. Is it useful to the individual? Yeah. Because now all of a sudden you don't have to be like, man, am I using the right words? Am I going to be punished if I sound apologetic? Like, no, you just change the tone in this thing, make it appropriate for a, end of year performance review. Done. Right.
Yep.
But the huge processes, like I started writing down for my role all of the AI pilots that I've done, like with individuals in the org, to be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, let's try this out. Like, and it came from a simple premise of, um, it sucks when if you ask somebody that, you'll get 5, 6, 7 ideas right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to pose it.
Because then it'd be like, okay, so when I come in every day, the coffee sucks. All right, well, I can't do much about the coffee, but let's mark that down because, you know, you need a good environment for creative ideas, right? Or if you're in a big, enterprise or a company that isn't as up to date with its tech stack, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 Excel sheets that track projects or track statuses of things that mostly say the same thing, but I have to spend time every week updating these things. Like in those instances, I've stopped and I've gone to my boss and said, look, do you want me to actually work or do you want me to talk about working? Because right now it seems like you're asking me to talk about working instead of working.
Yeah.
And no, I don't want to fill out 7 spreadsheets. Why?
Yeah.
Why? So in that case too, I think it really does depend on the type of company you're in and the size of it, because in the smaller orgs, if it was like, oh, I have 7 tracking spreadsheets, great. That's a project management problem. Let's get something like an Asana or a Monday.com or something where people can enter in things and you can enter in dependencies and, oh, hey, this part of the project's done. Kick it over to Johnny.
Right.
That's an easily solvable thing. However, you're in a big enterprise. Do you want to go spend 6 to 9 months advocating for a new tool to then do project management when they're going to come back and say, yeah, we already have a project management tool. So just go use that. And you go, yeah, but the problem is it sucks and nobody uses it. So,
Right.
we need something else. I don't have the willpower for those kind of fights right now. And I don't think any of my coworkers do either,
Yeah.
Um,
That's a key point, though. I think that's one of the, if we're looking at efficiency gains,
mm-hmm.
information transfer, transparency between individuals and teams is
Mm-hmm.
almost always a gap. Like
Yep.
communication is never done well enough. It's extremely hard to ever get to that point.
Right.
And that is probably one of the hardest pieces to realize unless you really focused in on this. Like you really made a project out of it of like, I'm going to interview a bunch of people about this particular process,
Mm-hmm.
of how we actually do X at this company. And then you would probably hear, well, I do my part and it's actually not that bad. Or there's parts of it that aren't great, but it's overall, it works. And then I wait for 3 weeks for this person to reply. And then
Right.
the other person is like, well, by the time I get to this, it's 4 layers deep. I forgot to log in because I only do this once a month and it takes me forever. And I finally do the thing and it takes me 30 minutes. And it's like, they wait 2 weeks. How many weeks for you to do a 30-minute task?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to realize like those gaps like that.
Right.
That's a difficult one. And that's actually a really good. It's a good and a bad use of AI. So it's a good use of AI to try to make that process easier and simpler.
Right.
And it's a bad use of AI because typically the tools aren't meant for team-based sort of things, even multiple people sort of things.
Right.
ChatGPT, just now you can start like a couple people all working on the same, you know, chat stream. Basically, you can share it and everyone can kind of communicate in with it.
Right.
Before that, it was all solo effort kind of stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a gap.
And I know for me, like when I was doing the individual, pilot projects, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of them, well, most of them actually, I would tell somebody like, hey, we could do this process this way with this prompt. And they go, well, that's this department. Have you talked to anybody from there? I said, no, because they're going to freak out because that's their job. And that's like 90% of their projects right now. Should they be doing smarter, better, more important things? Yeah. Yeah. For example, one of the prompts was a UX thing. And the UX thing was, tell me, does this fit an informational, user intent? Or should this be moved into the catalog because it's better suited for, commercial and transactional intents?
Sure.
Pretty basic, whatever. That kind of project with humans, with everything else going on in the organization, is like a 3-month, okay, let's audit 20 pages.
Right.
Right? Okay, how about here's this prompt. Here's 20 links. 20 minutes, get a cup of coffee, come back. Now I have the responses, right?
Yep.
And baked into the prompt are things of, okay, here's how you'd want to rewrite the copy to better match the new intent, or nope, it's good where it is, leave it the way it is. Like, that to me is a perfect use case. The problem with that is presenting it in a way where I'm not, me or anybody else is not saying, okay, this entire team, we don't need you anymore because this will just do that. Right. So, no, this is one like research part of your job. This can now allow you to spend the 3 months doing more strategically important work instead of this like clicking around and reviewing and there's a broken image,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. That also points to leadership as well.
yeah.
That could be a significant gap because micromanagers are easy to find
Mm-hmm.
because they know the task, the process, and they start tearing off little bits and pieces of it, right? Or
Yep.
critiquing little bits and pieces. To your point of now you can start doing more strategic work. Oftentimes people aren't actually even set to ever get to that level
Right.
because the organization hasn't really made it clear what the strategic intent actually is. They just said, this is your job duties. Keep doing it as people ask you to
Right.
do it and keep repeating it. And maybe you can improve upon it. That'd be great too. But if you just keep doing it, that's fine. Instead of
Right.
getting to that next level of saying like, look, our overall goal is way beyond this little piece. Can you help us work on that?
Right.
I I think you'd quickly find the individuals who really enjoy the minutia, and you'd find the individuals who like working more at that strategy layer. But you'd also inspire the whole group to be like, okay, we're doing this actually for a reason, not just because my boss told me so or some coworker asked me to do it.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting to me is there's sort of a reoccurring theme across my careers, right? When I was in music, you would have what I would call the scenesters, right? Where it's all right, I'm just going to go play, and I like playing because it's a good time, and you get free beers, and get to stay up late at night, and it's just a good time.
Sure.
Then you had the jobbers, which is I don't really care what I'm playing. It's a job. I'll come in, I'll play the part, I'll leave, whatever.
Sure.
Then you had the band leaders who were like, all right, this is a reflection of like me or our work or the band's work or whatever. This is how we get to the next level. This is sort of the plan, like you had those individuals. And it was pretty apparent because you're like, oh yeah, don't ask Joe to do this because he just comes in, plays his bass, and leaves. You
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Funnily enough, that has absolutely played out in all of my quote unquote normal jobs
Yeah.
too,
I
right?
can see that. Yeah.
So that's where part of my brain immediately goes to, of the people who just like doing their thing,
Yeah.
how many of them are the jobbers that just want to come in, play the tune, leave, coach soccer, watch football, call it good, right?
75%
Probably,
at least.
probably.
Yeah.
So that's the huge bell curve. Then, of the people that we're talking about,
Yeah.
where it's the, hey, I want to do more strategically important work.
Yeah.
That's maybe the top 15%, 20%,
Probably.
maybe,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Finding meaning in work. I mean, people are incentivized so many different ways, and finding meaning in
yeah,
work for that top group, they won't find meaning in work unless they're working at that level.
right.
And there's a big chunk of people who are absolutely finding meaning in work by it's a place that pays my bills and allows me to pay my mortgage. And
Right.
that is meaningful to them, and that's it. Or they have some, distinct, meaning that is just, it's about their title, it's about where they've reached and saying, like, I've accomplished college, which allowed me to accomplish this role. And I find meaning in the fact that I get to continue and be whoever I am and do this kind of work
Mm-hmm.
because that's self fulfilling in itself. Yeah, you're going to find a chunk that just, they're only going to care when they're at that strategy level because they feel like they're implementing at that level, they're contributing, they're affecting things, maybe it's a self-important title, to be honest. I mean,
Right.
whatever it feels like, that's a group too.
Mm-hmm. Have you defined this for yourself yet?
No, I think it's rather contextual for myself, but
Yeah. I think for me, I prefer the strategy. I like feeling that momentum, um, which has been really interesting to me. Like with these AI pilots, right? Where it's oh hey, I can help you out doing this, and this. It's like, yeah, but like I got to make this PowerPoint, and I just need to bring all these things together. And you can just tell their brain isn't set up to be like, take this data stream, this data stream, this data stream, put it into one thing.
yeah, yeah,
Right. Even though that's absolutely what they're doing, but they're just doing
yeah,
it really slow and click by click. Um, so I don't know that, especially in the enterprise world, it's going to take a lot longer for any of these productivity gains to be realized,
true.
especially when it comes to sort of the creative, like marketing sales side. I think the easy things are implementing the kind of machine learning, the AI analysis of the data streams you already have coming in, or
Yeah,
there's some non-marketing use cases that I think are really interesting, like materials analysis and things like that. But again, just like with marketing automation or anything like that, it's going to be the smaller orgs who can build sort of their organization and culture around these apps or these ways of working that will realize the most productivity out of these things. Um, how's that resonating with you?
no, it's I think spot on. It's always a question of where does this fit? Can we actually fit
Mm-hmm.
this in, and does it actually make sense? And you're going to have to ask that at every level. I mean, smaller company also will have individuals wearing 10 different hats. So do
Okay.
they want to take on the effort of pulling in an Asana tool? Probably not. And the number of individuals involved on a project is 5. So is it really that hard to coordinate with them or ping them? No, it's pretty easy to grab
Right.
them. Right. So
Right.
you're going to always have like these contextual layers and situations that you're going to have to fit whatever piece to it. I think it's difficult looking at the outside in to any organization. And that is
Right.
one of the biggest difficulties with applying AI as an efficiency gain, or actually anything as an efficiency gain, is how do you actually ever see inside a company and inside a process, inside an organization enough to realize there's an opportunity here, there, the next place, right?
Right.
And the tools aren't necessarily always set up for doing things like that. Instead, they're more set up for these singular tasks and the prompt and the response. And honestly, it's a text-based response or a code-based response. Image-based is kind of getting there, but even at that, it's still a prompt and response sort of thing. So it's still limited.
Right.
Where could it go? Anywhere. It just
Right.
takes a lot more effort to kind of stretch it into that and place it in that and envision that even it should be going there.
Well, and that's where I think as people with SEO backgrounds, a lot of our conversations with AI immediately went to programmatic SEO.
Yeah.
And the questions of shoulda, woulda, coulda. Right? It's like just because you can create a blog post for 12 things to do in this zip code doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot of the AI situations early on, whereas we can do all the things now. We can do
Right.
the LinkedIn stuff. We can do Twitter. We can repurpose one thing into 29 forms now. We
Right.
can, and you're like, do you even want to be well known on LinkedIn? Do you even want to be an influencer, in that sense? If
It's
the
also,
answer is no, why? Why are
yeah,
you doing that?
you have to
You
maintain
know?
another one, admin another one, figure out who has access to it, remove them when they leave the company. I mean, like, there
Right.
are so many, I mean, keep up with any kind of legal change, privacy policy change, and everything else that you have to do with each one of those pieces. Translations become a question. How are you actually respond
Right.
to support questions on LinkedIn? Like, it's the same
Right.
with honestly releasing any of this tech too. It's who's going to admin this thing, who's going to maintain it. It's
Right.
more tech debt every piece of tech that you release. So, is it worth it? It's an excellent question. Oh,
That's where go ahead.
oh, just a quick aside of the comment about the information being sent out also to the customers. I was just thinking about this recently. Had a real bad experience with a company, and I was just thinking about how few people actually are involved in the communication approval stage at a company. Like, I knew of a corporation that
Yeah.
used to send even the same individual up to 8 to 12 emails per day because it was coming from different groups and departments within the company. But that
That's
same
insane.
individual's email address was tied to so many different, basically personas that they kept
Yep.
getting hit all the time, constantly. And it's so funny if you take one step back and say, okay, what is actually our customer's full experience with our company? And it's not just that we show up to trade shows. It's not just that we have a website that people can Google and they can find it. It's so much communication out and so little oversight of, is this meaningful? Or is this actually high quality? Or is this just crap that we're posting because we wanted to say we
Right.
posted something every month? Like,
Right.
what a poor metric when you're considering, like, this is the one time your customer's actually having an experience with you. And the
Right.
experience is that poor. Like, maybe
Yep.
less is more. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember having a meeting with a user, or we were watching a user experience testing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like any company, we're like, what's your relationship with PDFs or the website? And it turned out that they were only using the website to download the PDFs after they had already purchased because they needed it for the legal requirements in their
Sure.
country or whatever, right? Now, my own personal feelings about the consumer journey, I can't necessarily get into, but Um, that to me was such a miss where it's just like, why would that not be part of the post-purchase experience of, hey, thanks for your order. Here's all of the documentation associated with the products that you just purchased.
That'd be handy.
That would be
Yeah.
such an easy reach out.
Yeah.
Like, and then you'd have the better customer experience. Now, I think we had promised a specific use case and a specific thing, and this ties into what we were just talking about, where the tech debt piece of it is interesting because throughout my career in ghostwriting for people, doing e-commerce stuff, newsletters, any of that stuff, you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to write a blog or I'm going to write a newsletter. And then you forget, oh yeah, I need the subject line. I need the titles. I need a meta description. I need the social posts that promote the thing that I just did. Oh, I need to have blog header to make it stand out. And make sure that you have the brand image on the header so that people, if they share it, also do that. Oh, and if they share it, you need the open graph image in addition to the, whatever. So then it's like your one thing has now become 20.
Mm-hmm.
And if your definition of done is you launched a thing, well, you better get those 20 things done. Right.
Right.
So for me, it's a thought experiment. So let's not get into whether or not you should be blogging in 2026. Let's just assume that you have decided that is going to be strategically important for you.
The elephant in the room, we're ignoring that guy.
Just completely ignore it. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Or just sit on the furniture. Don't worry about that thing.
Yep. That'll be the next episode. What should you be doing?
Yeah.
The where AI has helped me with this scenario is not only the strategy side of things or coming up with the ideas, but also some outlining. I will do all of my own writing because I enjoy that, right? So that's my own caveat, which is a big one. Do you enjoy doing the work or not? But for example, with this podcast, going through that notebook LM that we've kept going on every single episode that we have, to be able to go to it and say, hey, we want to tighten our messaging around like what our main content pillars are. Help me identify the topics we keep coming back to across 70 episodes.
You're talking transcripts. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it does that analysis, which honestly, that could have been a business school capstone project in terms of the amount of work reading through 70 transcripts. But then to be able to then immediately have 4 content pillars with typical subtopics that come up underneath those 4 pillars was a huge help. Because now, okay, here's what we favor. We might want to add, a couple extra things just for some extra flavor, so a more in-depth discussion. That's been massively helpful because now I'm not doing that huge research thing, and it doesn't have to be very correct. It just needs to be directionally correct, right? Because then it comes into the actual execution of it too.
That's a very helpful caveat.
Yeah.
Precision is always a difficulty with any AI system because you have to trust the output entirely.
Right.
And I don't think you can. So there's always a point there where either you are double checking the results, proving it out, or doing it all over again yourself. But if you can find those scenarios where you're looking for that directional thing, also in your example, you're talking about 70 episodes worth of transcripts. That's a ton of content to read through. So the benefit with the AI in that situation also was that you're having it do heavy load kind of analysis and lifting that an individual likely would not do. And especially at any other organization, they wouldn't do it. So this was kind of an unrealized opportunity, and it was a slightly kind of unbiased third party giving you feedback on the kind of current common topics versus someone likely going to the most recent couple and saying, well, we talked about this recently. And I guess that's what we kind of talk about a lot, making pretty broad-based assumptions versus something that would be much more precise and say, the following 15 episodes were about this. The following 14 were about this. Right.
Right.
That's helpful. No, that's a good example. And I think people can do that and expand that also against blog posts, content that they have, data that they have, reports, analysis, might even be multiple PowerPoints, and say what's, common across here. What common problems do we keep talking about?
Right.
That's helpful.
I think the other thing too, at least within that research and development side of things, is if you take away user data from things like SimilarWeb or SparkToro or old keyword research kind of things, to then be like, here's my audience. This is what I know generally from these sources about said audience.
Yep.
Right. Help me understand how I can best, speak to, target with, refine what I'm already doing.
Yeah,
right. For me, it's always refining. Yeah. Or punch holes in this theory for me.
Yeah.
Where, what might I be blind to with the way that I'm, discussing this? Those have been massively helpful. Now, granted, those are all things that I love to do.
Yeah.
So of course I'm going to go that direction with it. On the actual writing of the post, creating headers that are optimized, towards the intents, or writing a meta description that Google's just going to rewrite, but you get yelled at by the you have 14 errors because you don't have a meta description.
Right.
So okay, those all go in there. Getting all that done, those are massively useful. And also coming up with, just give me 5 ideas for this title. It's like, because I come up with one and that's the working title, but then I know I'm anchored on that title because it's the first one I came up with.
Yeah.
So just seeing what some other things could do. I don't know that I've ever taken a title verbatim from the AI. It's always, I like parts of this one, I like parts of that one, but then if I put them together, it doesn't make sense. So let me rewrite it. Right. There's always some editing and rewriting.
Yeah.
To the point of the SEO automation stuff that we talked about. That's the stuff that I've always been worried about with AI, where it's the pray and spray.
The programmatic side idea. Of things, throwing out a
million where it's just like, okay, if you're a narcissist and you don't care, or you're an anarchist and you don't care, and you're just going to create a bunch of content because it'll benefit you, then this will be really powerful for you to do a lot of crappy stuff. Personally, that's not me. I don't want to be known for that. I don't even want any inkling out there that that's what I would be doing.
Right.
Right. So anyway, back to the blog post. One thing that's also really been beneficial is just during the editing process, right? Like during the creative writing degree that I had, one of my favorite things was you would always have to sit down and it would be your turn to get feedback from everybody in the room. So you got an entire classroom's worth of bias and perception and internalization of whatever it is you created. Yeah. And then they tell it back to you. And there are a lot of times where there were a bunch of perspectives. And I'm like, oh, I don't have that lived experience, so I never would have thought of that. That's interesting. Right. Or, oh, dang, I didn't mean to piss you off. I'm sorry.
Good to hear before it publishes. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to rethink this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that I've been playing around with too, between the AIs, and honestly, that's one of the reasons I've been leaning more towards Claude recently, because it's just better at that particular use case than Gemini or ChatGPT. So, yeah, I think that's my workflow through writing. I think that makes a lot of sense just because I do a lot of that. But I know you have like custom GPTs for like landing pages and things like that.
Yeah.
Would you add anything or change anything for blog posts or any kind of web page writing?
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is spot on. It's true that for those who are scared of writing, it is the blank page killer. You have a blank page, you're using it to give you something to react to, but it's never good enough to be published. If you make a custom GPT or, Gem from Gemini or whatever, any other system,
Right.
you can preload it with, your tone, prior example articles, which really helps.
Yeah.
Brand standards, other elements that you always want to have in there. For instance, like your open graph tags. If you ask to write a blog post, it'll write a blog post, but won't give you the open graph tags until you ask for the open graph tags. But your GPT could just have that tossed in always and kind of be added in. Those kind of pieces are important to get that initial copy and piece down. I think one abuse of AI tools is ideation, because these are still, to be honest, Mad Libs kind of tools with small bits of logic and reasoning kind of tied into them. So it's the most probable phrase that it will continue with. Right. It's not necessarily smart, and it's not judging its own work. You can ask it about its own work and how did it do that. It doesn't actually know. Instead, it comes out to its training data to come up with the best possible reply to then reply to you. And that can go on infinitely. It doesn't understand a whole lot of what's going on. It can have some prompt memory, or recent reply memory in the context window and the like, but it's very, very simplistic. So where I've seen it gone wrong is when people have been querying these tools for what should I write about? And if you do that without giving it the context of saying, these are our prior articles, this is the audience we're going after, this is the type of products we have, or the type of service that I'm trying to push, or the opinion that I want to make, any of those kind of points, and you're just saying, here's my website, what's something I should write about? It's going to give you a dozen ideas that are probably not worth actually doing. I've done that a few times, even with our podcast, thinking like, maybe, we've got a lot of transcripts out there. What should enterprising minds talk about next? And it'll give me like a dozen ideas, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Like, these are things that, yes, they would bore to death an audience. Correct. Or it has something to do with AI and marketing and who knows what else. Some of them are just, I can ask them to be more professional, more fun, more whatever, and it still can't ever seem to nail a topic. It is surprisingly bad at that. So,
well, YouTube has that too, and I don't know if you've jumped in and tried that.
Studio has that, right? What you should make a video about next. Yeah,
right, and it's always some sort of inflammatory thing, or
thanks, YouTube.
5 product reviews for this blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, that doesn't feel like us.
No, it never does. And that is the difficulty, is you're always talking to a piece of software. It is a bot. It's a script that's running.
Yeah.
And that's what you're responding to and you're getting back. And it's not a human being who would ask you so many other questions and try to get a good understanding of who you are, the context of what's going on, and then give you advice. It's that friend who you randomly text for a piece of advice and they give you something that, with no background, they're not going to give you great advice. But if it's an individual who you've been talking to, for months, and your significant other, your spouse, your brother, your sister, your close friend, you name it, and then you ask them for a piece of advice, that is completely
Right.
tailored to you off of all those experiences and their own experiences all bundled up together, which
Right.
ChatGPT does not have experiences. It has a training set of data and most probable phrasing, and that's it. And even if you
Well, that's
upload
why I
all
don't.
you can, you never will get a good response from it
Yeah,
for
and
those
that's
types.
why I don't understand why people would get into this whole like AI relationship thing, because like how do you know someone loves you if they're not yelling at you? Right?
Dave,
Like,
that's a separate therapy question. Oh no, it is
yeah.
so base level, and that's the funny thing is we mentioned this once before. Ethan Mollick has a nice article on it too about how many romance novels have been fed into training data because it's available in cheap text. I mean, Wikipedia runs out at a certain point, but if you really want a whole lot of cheap data,
Right.
which gives it some interesting personality. But if you're developing a book basic character, yeah, it can do that, but it's not a
Right.
human being. I mean, the depth is never there.
Right.
And that's always the problem with an AI response is the depth isn't there. You have to add your own personal touch to it. And then it becomes interesting. It becomes worthwhile consuming it versus another listicle of 12 things to do with AI. Thanks. 11 prompts to save my life. Yeah, come on now.
Right.
Never true.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I feel like I've been saying this line a lot lately, but clearly you can tell we're still wrestling with these ideas. I
True.
think everybody is to some extent.
And it keeps changing.
As with any, yeah, and it's changing real quick. Like just from the beginning of the year till now. Like, oh my god, the amount of things that have been announced and have done. It's a lot. It's a lot. Um, everybody, please let us know what you think. Does this resonate with you? Have you seen any kind of productivity gains? Are you feel like you're able to do more with AI, or are you just, you know, sliding through? I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear from people. Like, subscribe, share, help everybody get in on the conversation. We love the feedback when you're giving it to us. So keep that going. Keep trying AI. Keep trying marketing, because Lord knows we got to fight for it. Cute Beastie Boys, right? And we'll see you in the next episode 2 weeks from now. Take care.
Cheers.